Hey, do you guys remember the Yakuza games? Did you know the protagonist is a rabbit now?
あんた
俺は今日大変な一日だな。決着をつけようじゃないか。
Rusty Rabbit is a 2.5D platformer indie game. It does have 3D models, but they move in a 2D set camera. It's a Metroidvania type game, taking place in a post-apocalyptic world where humans left the Earth and Earth became colonized by rabbits. Our protagonist is a cutesy little bunny. Yeah, you guys are not buying it. Stomp is old, cynical, and obsessed with digging through the scrap and junk that humans left behind. He's the rust grabber, meaning he recollects junk left behind, finds a new use for it, and sells it, although it's more of a habit for him, to be honest. He also used to be a husband and a father, but those days are behind him now. Rusty Rabbit is built on nostalgia, but not the kind that just looks backwards and that's it. It's about a world made of forgotten parts trying to move forward. It's about how even junk holds history, memories of what it was, and the potential for something new, because sometimes the past isn't just something to remember, it's something to rebuild. Rusty Rabbit isn't just about nostalgia, it feels like it too. At its core, it's a Metroidvania, a genre built on exploration, backtracking, and unlocking new abilities. You don't just go from point A to point B, you revisit areas, uncover secrets, and slowly piece together a bigger world. Stamp pilots a mech he calls the Junkster, which has different abilities you can upgrade, can climb, fly for a little bit, and go Sonic mode. But Rusty Rabbit does something quite interesting. Instead of a mystical relics or futuristic tech, your power-ups come from junk, literally trash, scattered across the world. Scrap isn't just a collectible, it's a key to survival and moving forward. In a gameplay sense, it functions like an upgrade system, but narratively, it reinforces a bigger idea. Everything we throw away has a story, a past, and maybe even a future. The setting of Rusty Rabbit is both dead and alive. The ruins of a human civilization loom in the background, abandoned, where nature, wildlife, and mechanical stuff left behind have taken over. The world isn't empty, no. It's full of forgotten history waiting to be repurposed. This makes the game environment feel like something out of a lost era. Crumbling skyscrapers, rust-out vehicles, and old factories serve as both obstacles and landmarks. It's not just a level, it's a graveyard of a past that Stamp keeps digging through, whether he admits it or not. I wonder why. And then there's the junk digging itself. It's more than just a game mechanic, it's a metaphor. Stamp isn't just collecting materials, he's uncovering fragments of a lost world. The past is literally beneath the surface, waiting for someone to find it out. It's poetic even. But it doesn't just stop there. The game's references to other titles are also something we're talking about. If you've played classic action platformers, Rusty Rabbit feels quite familiar. It's filled with nods to other games, both subtle and obvious. The level design carries echoes of Castlevania and Metroid, with interconnected pathways and secret areas. The combat is snappy and fast-paced, kinda like the Mega Man series, or even more recent indie games like Hollow Knight. The gruff, battle-worn protagonist, he feels like a callback to older gaming heroes who were less about a chosen one and more about surviving. And then there's the biggest reference of them all, the Stamp's voice. If you play in Japanese, you'll immediately recognize him. Takaya Kuroda, the voice of Kazuma Kiryu from Yakuza, gives Stamp the perfect voice. Ever heard the phrase, characters are their voices? Well, here it applies. It seems like a perfect match to me. It's a small detail, but it transforms Stamp from just another grumpy protagonist into someone who feels like an old-school action hero. Rusty Rabbit clearly respects gaming's past, but it's not just imitating what came before. Instead, it's asking what happens after nostalgia, when all you can do is to move forward with the pieces left behind. That's where the BBs come in.
Excuse me, I wonder if you might help me? You don't happen to know a veteran rust grubber called Rusty Stamp who lives around here, do you? Or would you happen to be him?
Let's say I am. Who are you jokers? And where'd you come from, huh?
We're the BBs, a crew of rust grubbers just like yourself.
Stamp is a character stuck in time. He clings to old junk both literally and metaphorically. He's rough, experienced, and sees the world as something broken, something to be salvaged, not rebuilt. He doesn't fight because he has a grand vision of the future. He fights because fighting is just a part of his life. But he is not really alone. Rusty Rabbit introduces younger characters who approach the world differently. To them, junk isn't a relic of a lost civilization. It's just material waiting to be turned into something new. They don't care about the past in the same way Stamp does. Where he sees ruins, they see resources. Where he sees memories, they see opportunities. And that contrast is important, because nostalgia can be comforting, but it can also trap you. Stamp presents someone who lives in the past, but the BBs, they remind us that the past can rebuild the future. Something I find quite interesting is the real meaning behind Stamp helping out the BBs in the game. In different points of the Junk Mountain, different members of BB get stuck because they don't know the place that well. Stamp comes to help them and get to know them a little bit better. It may look like a simple interaction, but metaphorically it's interesting. Since Junk represents the past, it means the younger rabbits, aka the new generation, are falling in the traps of the past, since they are quite arrogant towards Stamp and think they can do better while not knowing what junk means. The Stamp, on the other hand, already knows the past, the junk, and is able to understand it, and he helps the new generation not to fall on it again. After all, those who don't know their past are bound to repeat it. Although, without the future in mind, Stamp wouldn't be able to get new abilities in the Junkster without the help of one of the youngest members of the BBs, a small rabbit named Grix, who is characterized by being an energetic genius transforming junk into usable pieces. So, who's the one that's in the right? Stamp, the rabbit who is so stuck in the past that can't upgrade his machine without the help of the perspective of a new generation? Or the BBs, which refuse to respect the junk, or the past they come from, and just look too much into the future without caring a second thought? Well, both. They both are right. You can't have a future without a past. And what's the point of remembering a past if you're not thinking of the new memories from the future? I also have to say, I find it cute that the BBs don't know what their name means.
Before I join anything, there's one thing I've got to know. What exactly does BB stand for anyway?
It stands for the name of our group, of course. The Blackberries. Why?
Huh?
It's blackberries, burrowing bears, or pretty much whatever that starts with two B's. Not only it's a funny gag, but it also kinda shows that these kids don't know where they are coming from, meaning they can't really build a stable foundation for something like their own group name. It's a small detail, but one that I appreciate in the star's writing. Rusty Rabbit's world isn't just a backdrop, it's a statement. It's a world built on the scraps of something greater. Crumbling structures, rusted out machines, and abandoned tunnels, all signs of a past that once mattered, but time moved on, whether anyone was ready for it or not. And that's where the game's mechanics reinforce its message. I mean, come on. You're quite literally collecting the junk left behind and using it for something new, like upgrades and such. I'd say it's a creative take on the Metroidvania-style game genre. It's about using what's left behind, rather than wishing for what's gone. The world isn't waiting to be restored, it's waiting for someone to make something new out of it. That's where the contrast between Stamp and the younger characters matter most. Because Rusty Rabbit isn't saying the past is meaningless, it's asking us, how do we use it? Do we stay in nostalgia, endlessly digging through old memories hoping to bring something back? Or do we take what's left, accept that things have changed, and build something better? The game doesn't force an answer. Instead, it presents a world full of forgotten pieces and asks, what are you going to do with them? At first glance, Rusty Rabbit looks like a fun, action-packed PlayStation 5 platformer. It has fast-paced combat, tight platforming, and rewarding exploration. But beneath all of that, it's telling a bigger story. It's a story about time, about memory. Stamp isn't just a rabbit scavenging for parts. He's a reflection on how we interact with the past. Some people live in nostalgia, unable to let go. Some people reject the past entirely, refusing to look back. and some find a way to take what's old and turn it into something new. It gives us a world built from ruins, a hero who refuses to move on, and younger characters who challenge that mindset. It never tells you which side is right. I mean, is there even a side that's right at all? Who is to say how we should survive our own story? The gods who abandoned us for space? Or peers? Ourselves? The past isn't just something to remember, it's something to learn from. And I think that's neat. Rusty Rabbit isn't just about collecting junk. It's about what junk represents. Memories, history, both in games and in real life. It understands nostalgia. It's not just a word that represents the longing for a better time. It's a word that represents the memory of the past. And depending on what we do with it is how we will grow as people. And that's the beauty of Rusty Rabbit. It isn't just playing with nostalgia, it's questioning it. It's taking the mechanics, the aesthetics, and even the voice of a classic gaming icon and asking what comes next. And the answer? Well, that's up to you. Because whether you live in the past or move towards the future, at some point, we all have to decide what to do with the things we leave behind. And that's okay. It's a part of life. It's a part of growing up. If this sounds like the kind of journey you want to experience for yourself and maybe even learn a thing or two from it, I'd recommend you follow the game's demo on Steam. Rusty Rabbit is set to release soon, and if you want to wishlist it, you have the link in the description and first comment. As tradition, here's a fan art of the sponsor. Thank you so much for the opportunity. And before you people burn me alive because I used this very cool thumbnail with Fumeko and her child version in a sponsor video, I'll let you guys know that sometimes I can also draw some cool stuff, but for some reason it always ends up in unrelated topics or characters that are barely seen in canon on my stories. So it's not just this time, it will happen again. And yes, this is Fumeko's canon child self-design before her trauma, so yeah. There's some stuff I'm going to reveal in the future about Fum past and stuff, but I thought it might be fun to reveal in a thumbnail for now. As always, remember to stay healthy, drink water, take a shower, add Rusty Rabbits on your Steam's wishlist, and subscribe for more content. See ya!